Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey, in this episode, we're going to travel back in time, Trip. We're going to go back to the week of May 20th, 1978. Now, why?
Why?
That's the week I graduated from our alma mater, Ashland College.
Okay.
And
I'll buy that.
In the A-side segment, I'm going to count down the top 10 from American Top 40 with Casey Kasem from that week. I'm just going to list the songs, and Trip, I'm just going to ask for your insight on the songs. That's going to be on the A side. And the B side, we go beyond the wax and dig into the facts. Then we'll close with Trip's triple play selection. In this top 10, by the way, it's 78. As you can expect, they're the Gibb brothers, John Travolta, and a pop icon who had his first #1 hit in over 21 years, Trip. We're going to go ahead and get started with our countdown for the week of May the 20th, 1978. And coming in at number 10, it's the Bee Gees and Night Fever.
This was, of course, the tail end of the Saturday Night Fever run where the Bee Gees had How Deep Is Your Love, Staying Alive, Night Fever, If I Can't Have You by Yvonne Elliman, and then Emotion, which was a song that they did, and Night Fever was the song that was #1 for more weeks than any other Bee Gees song from Saturday Night Fever.
Number 9 is Atlanta Rhythm Section, Imaginary Lover.
That was their biggest hit, and from the album Champagne Jam, which we do a thing on Q105.3 on Sunday nights called the Long Play Replay, and I think it was recently the album we featured. And of course, the Atlanta Rhythm Section grew out of a couple of the musicians were with the Classics 4, and they were the studio band or the session band for a recording studio in Doraville, Georgia. And they decided to form their own group, and the Atlanta Rhythm Section had a couple of hits. They also did a version of Spooky, which got into the top 20.
Number 8, Jefferson Starship, Count on Me.
Oh, that was great. Now, of course, they started as Jefferson Airplane, and then they reformed in the 1970s with Starship, and they had the big album, which included Miracles. This was their second release in 1978, Count on Me. And, of course, the other song from that album, which I liked, was Runaway. And this was, again, another top 10 hit for the group, which would later become Straight Starship, because when Paul Kantner left the group, he took with him the Jefferson name, and they weren't allowed to use it.
So it was Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship, and then just Starship. Is that the sequence?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
We are going through the top 10 from American Top 40, May 20th, 1978. Next one up is an instrumental. The album cut was 9 minutes long. The single was not nearly as long. Chuck Mangione, Feels So Good.
And the thing about that song, you're right, the album cut was 9 minutes long, which I love. Most radio stations played the single version, which was around 4 minutes long. But WNBC in New York would play a version that they edited where it picked up from after the horn opening of it and picked up with the guitar strumming and would go into it and play. It was about a 5.5 minute version. That's what we play on WTRS radio.
Hey, you're listening to Trippin' Up. This is episode, I believe, number 50, believe it or not. You want to check out the other episodes? Subscribe to the channel. Even do some binge watching. We got some great history of the 60s, 70s, sometimes the 80s, sometimes the 90s, sometimes the 50s. You got to check out these episodes. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Number 6 is a Gibb. It's the youngest Gibb. It's Andy Gibb. It was his third straight #1, Shadow Dancing. No, it was the first of his 3 #1 hits. It's called Shadow Dancing.
No, you were right.
That's right.
It was his third. It was his third, because his first was I Just Want to Be Your Everything. Second was An Everlasting Love. And then this was the third one, Shadow Dancing. Now, this was the big song from 1978. Well, actually, I shouldn't say that. This was the big song for the summer of 1978. But we mentioned in a previous episode that American Top 40 would do their calendar year from November to October, November 1st, October 30th. And ironically, Shadow Dancing was number 2 in 1978. The number 1 song on that countdown on American Top 40 for the top 100 of the year was You Light Up My Life, because Debbie Boone was number 1 in November and December of the previous year. So this song, technically number 2 on the charts, but a lot of radio stations had it as the number 1 song. And again, this was a song you couldn't, you listen to the radio and you couldn't miss it because it was one of the top hits, and it basically was on for the entire summer.
The third and final Gibb related song on this countdown comes in at number 5. It's Yvonne Elliman, If I Can't Have You.
Yvonne Elliman was a singer who first gained fame as a member of the cast of Jesus Christ Superstar, and she sang the song in the show I Don't Know How to Love Him. Well, she got a recording contract with RSO Records. She had a hit in 1976 called Love Me, and she also did a version of Barbara Lewis song that was a hit that year. And then because she was on RSO Records, she was the one who recorded If I Can't Have You. Although the Bee Gees did a track of that too, and it's on their album, and this was her biggest hit. But then after this, Yvonne really didn't do much. She's from Hawaii, and you can see her, she still performs, but she kind of went off and had a family, and she didn't really have any hits after If I Can't Have You. But of course, it was on Saturday Night Fever, so she will be ever remembered, and that was her only number 1 song.
You mentioned Saturday Night Fever. Of course, the other iconic movie that featured John Travolta, or at least one of them, was the movie Grease. John Travolta, Olivia Newton-John, You're the One That I Want, comes in at number 4.
And Phil, that song was released about 2 months before the movie came out. And the thing about it was, we got it at the radio station, at WRDL, in fact, and we listened to it. We're like, John Travolta, what are they doing to his voice? Because it was so high. And it wasn't like, because John Travolta had released the song, and, it wasn't as high, and we didn't realize it was John Travolta. And of course, this was the first hit off of the Grease soundtrack, and the Grease soundtrack had a number of hits. There was that one. There was Olivia Newton-John's Hopelessly Devoted to You, and the song Summer Nights were basically on the charts. This was on the way up on the charts at this time in 1978.
And it was a song that was written for the movie. It was not included in the musical, is what my notes indicate.
Yes.
Now we get to an artist who had a little bit of a dry spell. There was a 21-year gap between his number 1 hits. He did a duet with Deniece Williams. The artist is Johnny Mathis.
Oh yeah.
Too much, too little, too late.
Yeah, Johnny Mathis. You're right. This was a comeback for him. Johnny. Johnny had not had a lot of hits, but again, part of it was the way the music business trended. Johnny Mathis was an easy listening artist, quote unquote. And this was, and he was basically, he was doing concerts, he was making a lot of money, but Johnny Mathis was kind of a non-entity for a long time on the charts. And then again, in the 1970s, you started to have a lot of radio stations, and you had some fragmentation, and the adult contemporary charts started to really pick up. And Johnny had some hits on the adult contemporary charts in the 1970s, but this was a huge hit. And Deniece Williams, again, this was a big song for her. The other song she did was Let's Hear It for the Boy, Let's Hear It for the Boy, which was on the Footloose soundtrack in 1984.
We've already covered 8 of the top 10 hits from the week of May 20th back in 1978. Hey, let us know what your favorite song is that we cover in this list. Please share it in the comments. In a little bit, Trip's going to share his 3 favorite from the group of 10. This is the 3rd duet in a row. This one's Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, The Closer I Get to You.
Yeah. Roberta Flack, of course, known for her hits in the 1970s. But Roberta Flack was also known, and I'll talk about this on the B-side, she was able to produce her own records, and she was the first female really to have that power to produce her own records, but she did it under a pseudonym. And of course, Donny Hathaway, we talk about the two of them together were just dynamite. They had a couple of songs, Where is the Love? This song, The Closer I Get to You. Unfortunately, Donny Hathaway committed suicide, basically jumping from a building in Manhattan. And of course, Donny Hathaway, I think, is remembered every Christmas with the song This Christmas. That was a song he did and he wrote, and a huge hit for him.
And the number one song on the American Top 40 for the week of May 20th, 1978, Wings, With a Little Luck.
Paul McCartney and Wings. Thing about this song is it was 5.5 minutes. And back then we had to time back into news. And this song always burned me when I was going into the news. I'd always have to fade out because it was a cold ending song. You couldn't fade out of it because it would sound really bad if you did. And I always hated it because it was slow. And, listen, Paul McCartney showed in the 1970s he still had it. He was concerned after the Beatles had split up, would he have another hit? There's a great special on Prime now that talks about his time with Wings. This was, of course, from the album London Town. It was a big number one song in 1978.
Well, that's it for the A side. We're going to get into the B side, but before we do that, as a reminder, Trip's going to share his 3 favorite songs from this list. Please let us know what your favorite song is. Share it in the comments. The B side, well, on the A side, we've gone through the wax. B side, we dig a little bit into the facts. Trip, what do you got for this episode's B side?
Talking about Roberta Flack. Now, when she originally, and again, a little bit of the backstory with Roberta Flack, she was a school teacher, and she had recorded an album. She had been able to, she was a fairly accomplished jazz singer in and around the Washington, D.C. area. And she'd recorded an album and had done a song called The First Time Ever I Saw Your Face. And that song was released as a single, but it kind of went nowhere. Well, then Clint Eastwood grabbed it he was doing his movie Play Misty for Me. He was producing it and he was directing it. And he found that song. He played a disc jockey. So this was the centerpiece song, and he included it, and it became a huge hit for Roberta Flack. She followed that up with Killing Me Softly with his song, which was done about Don McLean's American Pie, believe it or not. Laurie Lieberman was the person who wrote that song. And Roberta said she wanted control over her music, so she demanded she be allowed to produce her own music. Now, back then, the recording industry was male-oriented, and women did not get that right to produce. Listen, Carole King, let's face it, Carole King, as accomplished songwriter she was not allowed to produce her own songs. So Atlantic Records said, okay, we'll do it, but you can't use your name. So she used the pseudonym Rubina Flake. And again, Donny Hathaway, they had this great bond and they recorded a bunch of stuff, and his death really upset her. So that's the one thing I will talk about in this. The other thing I'll talk about, we were talking about Grease, and we were talking about, Saturday Night Fever, and you mentioned the fact that John Travolta was in both of those movies. Now, the funny thing about it was they had they were filming Grease before Saturday Night Fever was released. So in the middle of the movie, they had the premiere, and John Travolta brought everybody from the Grease cast to the premiere and had them all, there. So they said one of the highlights, because this Grease cast was together for a long time, and the dancing and all that stuff. And Didi Khan wrote a scrapbook and talked about that night, and they all went to the premiere.
You had mentioned earlier Yvonne Elliman. She had her hit, I Don't Know How to Love Him. That was from the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yes.
It was on the chart at the same time as Helen Reddy's version of the same song. They were both on the top 40 at the same time. And I was curious if that had happened some other time. And it had, at least once. Trip, go ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is the love theme from Romeo and Juliet in I think it was 68 or 69, there were 3 different versions. And I know this because we run a show on WTRSradio.com and on Jersey Shore Good Time Oldies. that is the Music Expert Retro Countdown, and they do it from Cashbox. Or actually, they in the 60s they used the Billboard charts, and they spotlighted this. There were three different versions.
I got one more for you though. 1974, the Americans. Byron McGregor and Gordon Sinclair were both on the charts at the same time with the same. That was a spoken word song.
And the story and there's a story behind that. Do you know it, or do you want me to tell it?
You go.
Okay. Gordon Sinclair was a Canadian newscaster, and he did a editorial about the original, the Canadians or the Americans, and it was and a lot of people started requesting this. So Byron McGregor worked at CKLW. And his name was Gary Mack, by the way. His real name was Gary Mack. CKLW was one of the biggest radio stations in the Midwest, and he recorded this. And so Gordon Sinclair had released this version. It was big in Canada, and a record company released it here. Well, Byron McGregor recorded it with the Detroit Symphony, and he did not take one dime from this. It all went to the Red Cross. Yeah, they were both on the charts at the same time. Gordon Sinclair was a very famous newscaster in Canada.
I may be wrong, but I recall listening to American Top 40 when Casey Kasem went through the list in February of 74 when those songs came out. He'd only play one. As I recall, he wouldn't play both of them. He would only play one. There was also another artist that got inside the top 100 at the same time with that song, and that artist was Tex Ritter. Trip, you got anything else before we close out this episode?
No, that's good, Phil. I'm good.
All right. What's your favorite song from the American Top 40 from May 20th, 78? Hey, let us know in the comments. And Trip, it's now time for you to select your 3 favorite songs from the 10 that we've talked about in this episode. What do you got?
Well, I got to go with Night Fever for the Bee Gees because I always like that song. Yvonne Elliman's If I Can't Have You, of course, 2 of the disco songs that were on the charts on this one. And I think I will throw in there the Jefferson Starship song, Count on Me, because I always like that one, especially the beginning of it. It's got a nice piano in the beginning, and it launches into the song, and I always like that one. That was, I want to say it was a 14-second intro. Always like talking up that song.
I'm going to go with Atlanta Rhythm section, Imaginary Lover. Again, share yours in the comments. If you want to listen to Trip, you can find him weekday afternoons on Q105.3 in Savannah, Georgia. You can also check that out on WRHQ.com. Link down there, as well as the link to WTRSradio.com, or you can find it on the TuneIn Radio app. The Music Yearbook with Trip Rogers is on Facebook on stations including Vinyl 91.9 and 107.5 WRUU. That's in Savannah, Georgia, 91.9. 91.9 is WBNJ out of New Jersey. Thanks for being here. Keep the coffee brewing, keep the conversation flowing, and those music memories spinning.